It is our crowd.
No.
You know what it is, though? It's an aliens crowd. Aliens crowd!
They got a much bigger round of applause than we do.
Well, you know, they did a pretty big film about 30 years ago, so we're going to talk about that in a minute, you know.
You know, we were backstage and there were a whole bunch of people there, and I saw you had a whole bunch of friends. Can you bring some of them out here for us?
I think we can. I've got a list.
Do you want to
here.
meet some of Dave's friends?
Yeah, is that okay? Okay, I've got a list here, if that's okay with you guys, and I'm going to say their name, and perhaps you've heard of them. I'll say their character. Have you heard of a Private Spunkmeyer? Daniel Cash is here.
At least he's supposed to be.
He's supposed to be here.
Daniel, you want to come out and join us?
In dress rehearsal, they came out. See, it was yeah.
Well, while he makes his way to the stage, who else do you have?
Well, I can go on to my next name. I've got a friend back there playing a character named Private Drake. And Mr. Mark Walston is here today. Mark, you know,
Are you sure they're here?
yeah, you know what? Actually, there's a big candy dish right there by.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. All right, we'll start again. You got to there they are. Gentlemen. I've got more friends already.
Who else do you have?
Well, I've got a, have you guys ever heard of a Cynthia Dietrich? Cynthia Scott is here.
You know, I like this next name, so I'm going to steal it from you. Played a character named Frost. How about Rico Ross?
And we've got Private Vasquez in the house.
I had hope that Gorman would be here. William Hope.
Does anybody remember Private Hudson? Ladies and gentlemen, George Preston.
You know, I'm mad about him, but I'm even more mad about Burke. How about Paul Reiser?
You guys remember Newt, of course. Rebecca Newt Jordan. Carrie Hann is here.
Now, there's a character named Hicks, but he's my new best friend, Michael Bean.
And if you're ready.
So is that it?
No, I think we've got one more.
Who else? This
Does
looks like
anybody remember
everybody.
Ellen Ripley? You know what's great? I actually got to interview her for her movie Chappie that just came out about a year ago. So I haven't seen her since then, but it's going to be great to see her. Welcome her to Houston, Texas, Sigourney Weaver!
I won't tell you how strange it is to be standing backstage and see all of these people, and suddenly you fear for your life that something's going to get on your face. But you know you're going to be in good hands if, well, some of them are there. It's a good thing. Welcome, guys. Thank you for coming.
I want to ask, and we always ask, Sigourney, it's good to see you again, by the way. See, I really do a TV job. We talked during Chappie. She's like, you're doing this? I'm like, yes, I'm doing it. So see, it's me again. Anyway, she's like, who are you? No. Anyway, good to see you. I always ask our guests when they come to Houston, Texas here at Comicpalooza, how is your Houston, Texas experience going? What do you think of our fair city?
Yeah, I want to jump in, and anybody that wants to take this for granted, there's an entire audience out here that is thrilled to see all of you together because they have such a fondness for this movie. How do you guys reflect back on that film? If I can start with Sigourney.
Well, it is so wonderful to see everyone. I think it's a really good group, so thank you for giving us yet another excuse to get together. I always wish Jonesy were here because even though he is, frankly, in the second one, but no one ever thinks to bring him. He's very upset, but anyway. I want to just thank everyone for coming because, you know, you guys are so warm and polite and welcoming. Everyone says thanks for coming to Houston. It is really our pleasure to be here. You make us feel so welcome. But looking back, I don't know, I think the movie I'm so proud to be part of a movie that plays so well even today. I got to see it on Alien Day at Town Hall in New York City, and I hadn't seen it for a long time. And to see it with a huge audience that knows all the dialogue. Honestly, it was just a great, great roller coaster ride and a thrill. And it's great to be back with all these guys and this grown woman here. I keep trying to pick her up and run with her, and she won't let me.
Carrie, what was it like growing up with him? Growing up having this legacy with you, how often do people pull you back to Newt?
Well, to be honest with you, once the movie came out, I really had no concept of how big Aliens was until about 7 or 8 years ago. And so now it's kind of cool. And it's fun to go and see stars, but it's a very surreal experience because I'm a teacher, and I just... People don't understand this part of my life, so it's kind of nice because my husband and children get to be a small part of it and see a little bit of me that it's hard for everyday people that I hang out with to really understand.
I don't know if I should call you by your first names or your last names. I feel so weird saying like Bill or Paul, but I will. I'm going to say Paul. It's weird to say that to them. For you, the experience of doing Aliens in your body of work, where does it fall for you?
It's a phenomenal body. Let's just take a moment because you brushed right past you. But it's a substantial body. It was, it's very, very rare that you read a script that you know is going to be good. And I remember reading this script, and not only did you think it was going to be a hit, but it was actually exhilarating to read. I remember like every 12 pages, I have to, this is getting a little intense. I have to walk around the living room. So it's rare, to be included in something that you know is going to be good. And I remember just thinking, if I just don't screw up my little part, this is going to work. So that was my goal. I had a very low bar for myself. Don't screw up the part that you're in.
Yeah.
How did you feel about playing the villain?
Well, again, you say villain.
Or the villain,
I suppose from your point of view, sure. But I know those back at the office were very pleased with my performance. It depends on what side of history you're on.
Michael, I'm going to pull it back here because I missed you going that direction. And real quick, can you watch the film and just enjoy it as a film, or as you watch it, do all the memories of making it stay there with you?
Well, I actually had not seen the film for a long time. By the way, there are two great, one's terminated, but there's a great documentary on the making of Aliens on YouTube. It's like a 5-part series where all of us are, and it shows the,
I think half the panel is unaware of this documentary. You should all check it out. I
I don't watch YouTube as much as I do, but what was the question?
I don't know what you're going to find out when I ask the same thing of Bill Paxton.
Ernie, hold on a second. You were saying?
I think he was dreaming about it.
Dreaming about the documentary.
What happened was I watched, I was flipping through the channels and looking for something to watch probably about 6 months ago. And it is the part where that shell is being opened and they find you at the very beginning of the movie, and the thing falls in. And I started watching it, and I just ended up watching the whole thing. And the movie is so special. It's so special. We all, I think, everybody that worked on the movie felt like it had a chance to be really good. I don't think anybody expected to be 35 years later sitting here talking about it. But when I watched the movie and I kind of was analyzing it, I get so many children, I mean, that are 8 and 10 years old, and 12 years old, that, you know, parents will let them watch the movies. And girls come up to me, they're like, I love you, Hicks, I love you. 3 generations down, you know, and I'll say to kids, what's your favorite movie? Captain America, or Aliens. Aliens is my favorite movie, you know. And so, one of the things that I realized when I watched the movie that I really hadn't thought about before was why people like the character of Hicks so much, and it goes back to James Cameron. And if you watch Hicks in the movie, he's always smiling, you know? And he's usually smiling and he, you know, is impressed, and he is surprised, I think, and just a little bit, a little crushy kind of deal going on there, you know. And I think that the thing was so cool about that character that I was able to kind of give it up to you, and everything was like that made Hicks cool was the fact that I respected you, and that I knew that you knew what was going on, and nobody else did. And I wasn't going to act like I was, and so it's not the shooting, and it's not like great scenes, or aliens were coming out, and we're shooting and all that, but it's not. He's not a tough guy, you know. It was that little relationship, and by the way, that was written into the script by Jim Cameron. There was no, and I don't get a chance to play that leading man character very often. And so I was very pleased that kind of, I always call it a light story, you know, and I was very pleased with the light story, and realized that as I watched the movie, why people like it so much, especially when.
Bill, let me ask you real quick, why do you think the movie holds up?
Too much barbecue. Does anybody have a Tums? And I just want to say one thing to Paul Reiser. Maybe you haven't been keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked, pal! I still can't believe I'm even in the movie. I was scared the whole time I was making it. Not just as the character. Thank God Sigourney kind of held my hand. I remember one time we're shooting the scene where I think I do say that to you, and Michael's at the table, and Carrie, and Sigourney, and I have to say something about 17 days. Well, you guys know the line. And Sigourney could see I was struggling, and she reached out and just put her hand on my hand and kind of looked at me like, it's okay. Thank you, Sigourney.
Dave, I'm throwing it over to your side of the table because my eyes are going back.
Actually, you know, I got a question I want to ask. I want to go down the line. Do you guys remember your auditions? I want to talk about your auditions for this film. We'll start down here. Go ahead.
Well, this was my first job. It was one of my first auditions ever. I had broken my leg, and I came in on crutches, and I was in a waiting room, and Al Matthews was pushing people around in a very tough way, and I was scared out of my mind. And then I walked in, and I actually went up for Bill's part, and I wanted to be a classical theater actor, so to be honest, I was like, I don't want to be in this movie thing right now. And so I walked in, and there was two very young people running a camera, and I said, listen, this is written for a black man, you need to rewrite this. This writing just doesn't work, just do something better, and then call me back. And I was wearing a very funky kind of cool coat that was in fad at the time in England. And I got 3 recalls for that thing, and then I finally got the part. The people that I was pushing around were James Cameron and Gail Earnhardt. So I guess it counts to be cocky at some point in your life. Also, he said you can have the part if you give me the coat. So I think.
Mark?
I had a very interesting audition. I just did a movie called Revolution with Al Pacino, which was an awful film. And got called in. I first met with Gail Ann Hurd, and Gail said, "So, what have you been doing?" And I began to weave a tale. It was a total fabrication and lie that I had the best role next to Al Pacino in this film. And I was so convincing, I finally got called back to see Jim, but sometimes lying works.
Now, Jeanette, there's quite a bit of folklore around your audition, so please set the record straight for us.
Okay, I'll set the record straight. So
Okay.
some of it's true, some of it isn't. So I didn't have an agent, I was a theater actress, and I saw a call for a film called Aliens, and they were looking for North American and American actors who held a British equity card. And in England, if you have your green card, it's called your resident alien card. So I sort of thought, well, what's this film about? I'd seen Alien, it was, it just didn't cross my mind that it would be the sequel. So I thought, well, maybe, no, they want American actors. Maybe it's about a film about how Americans marry British people on the slide, to get their resident alien card. So I absolutely thought it was that. So I had a first meeting with Gail, and I dressed, which I figured was appropriate for a meeting, and sort of a nice pair of slacks and pumps, and like a little silk blouse. And it was a warm day, so I had bare arms. And then, actually, I saw the poster of Terminator on the wall behind, and I was like, cool poster, where'd you get it? I had no idea. It was like her bedroom, she's like, we made that film. And then she said, do you know what this film is about? And I said, no, I don't. She goes, well, it's about, did you see Alien? Yeah, well, this is the sequel, and it's about a lot of Marines who go up to, and then I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I'm wearing the wrong thing completely. Oh my God. But she said, so there's a lot of Marines, and then I said, well, then I made muscle. And because I was in the best shape of my life at that point. And she said, oh my God, you're not an actor, so you're a bodybuilder? I said, no, I'm an actress, but I like going to the gym a lot. And so she said, okay, well, come back and dress appropriately this time. So I straightened my hair back and came back in combat boots, and I was reading for, I was given the lines of Vasquez, and was told you're not auditioning for her because we're casting in the US. And, but there's not as many lines for the pilot and for Cynthia's part. But I came back and I read it as Vasquez because I didn't know how to read. How do you read something that's not the person? And then they kept having me come back, and then actually gave me Hudson's role to read, and again said, you're not playing him, but we just want to hear you read the role of Hudson. So then I read it as Hudson, and then it was very confusing, and I kept coming back and back, and then finally, this young couple, who I had no idea who they were, I was kind of confused, had me keep reading for Vasquez and talking to me, and then they said, well, we want you to be in the film, but we're not sure who it is, so you're in the film and we'll call you in a couple of weeks. And I was so excited to have a job before I was 30, so I was over the moon. And then I guess it took Jim a while to go back to Fox and kind of explain to them that this was his choice, and I'd never done a film, and then I got the role of Vasquez, which is.
And later today you'll be doing your one-woman performance of Alien, where you play all the characters on stage. New career for you. Back over to Cynthia, I didn't mean to cut you off when you were going through it.
I don't actually remember with whom I met first. I just remember what must have been my callback. I was, as the rest of us, most of us were living in England, in London, and I was living in a squat, a licensed squat with flatmates, and I rode a bike as my transportation, and I remember my flatmate knocking on my door, and I opened my bedroom door, and he's standing with a befuddled expression on his face and a big, thick envelope. He said, "This just arrived for you by motorbike messenger from 20th Century Fox." Oh yeah, that's my sides. My first job too. I do remember, and I think they read all the women at that point for Vasquez, with Vasquez's lines. And so I read the sides and studied up, and I guess I had a little more information than Jeanette had at the time, and I realized, okay, this is like super fit, like buff, threatening woman. So I went to the gym before the audition, and I already had pretty short hair, that helped, and I rode my bike to the audition through Trafalgar Square, which is taking your life in your hands, and I rode like a bat out of hell, like aggressively, like, get out of my way, double-decker buses! and I only remember, I think that was it. I think I got cast out of it.
Rico?
I was a little bit like Danny. I think I walked in there, and the only thing bigger, taller than me was my ego. You know, and I walked in, I had been auditioning a lot for movies. At that time, I was living in London, and I had already auditioned for Full Metal Jacket, and they were very interested. So when I walked in for Aliens, and you got to keep in mind, Jim Cameron wasn't the Jim Cameron that everybody knows at that point. So nobody knew him, and when I saw the movie Alien, I thought it interesting concept, but I was really interested in this Full Metal Jacket because it was Stanley Kubrick, and every actor at that time wanted to work with Stanley Kubrick. So I met with him, and he had me read Higgs and Hudson's role, but he said the same thing. He said, "But you're not going to be cast in those roles," which wasn't a nice thing to say to me with my ego, you know. So now I'm thinking, well, I can't believe this now, but I told him at that time, I said, well, if it's not for Hicks or Hudson, I'm really not interested. And, he said, well, listen, I'll tell you this, I want you to be in the movie. I just can't tell you right now. We're just starting to cast, but I do want you to be in the movie. And he says, I'll rewrite the script, and I'll write you a nice role, and I'll put some characters together, and you'll be happy. So I went away, and he said, before you accept the Kubrick job, just meet with me again. So I went back to Kubrick, I told him what was happening, and Kubrick says, well, listen, I need you for 8 weeks. And I went back to James and said, James, he needs me for 8 weeks. And James said, well, I'll let you come a week late to our shoot if Kubrick will release you. I went, great, I can do both these movies. Anyway, I went back to Kubrick, and Kubrick says, no, I can't release you, though. I can't guarantee you. Well, most of you who know Stanley Kubrick, that film took over a year to make, Full Metal Jacket. And so now I understand why he couldn't release me after 8 weeks. Anyway, it forced me to make a choice, and James says, listen, I'll rewrite this script. I wrote the script. I'll make you happy. And he says, and I'll pay you your fee. Whereas Kubrick didn't want me to read the script. Nobody read the script for Kubrick's film. You got the sides, and he says, what we do is we're going to go and we're going to workshop it, and whatever you bring to it is what we're going to bring out of it. And as an actor, you like that challenge. But you don't know what you're going to be doing, you know, and that's a little scary. So I kind of like had to make a choice, and I went with James, and the rest is history.
William answering that one. William.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's there's a few themes running through this because we were all, kind of this side of the table, living in London, and I never met Stanley Kubrick, but I met Leon Vitali, his acting coach. As far as I knew, you didn't meet Stanley. You didn't meet him until day one of shooting, and I did a lot of auditions for Leon. A lot of really hard work. I think I saw him 4 or 5 times. Then he came back and said, Stanley loves you, he wants you to do this, sending the contract to your agent. And I thought, it's great. Stanley Kubrick, as far as I was concerned, was God. And you didn't get a contract finish date. Could have gone on for 2 years, he was to be there. And he was going to pay everybody across the board, apart from Matthew Modine, who was, going to get paid a bit more. But, so then my agent rings me up before I've signed this contract and says, they want to see you for a science fiction movie. And I said, yeah, Sally, do I want to, do a science fiction movie? I'm working for Stanley Kubrick. And he said, no, it's a good script. Just go along and see him. And I almost didn't want to do it. I said, yeah, okay. But I've been doing a play at the time, doing quite a lot of theater. Private Wars by Jim McClure about veterans, Vietnam veterans. And so I was shaved and pumped and, armied up. And I went in to meet Jim and Gail at 20th Century Fox, and we were talking and chatting. He said, right, okay, here's a script. Give me Hudson's lines. We want you to come back. Because I've just been playing this really quite crazy damaged guy. And he said, we're looking at Bill Paxton, but no, they didn't say that. But so I got down to the lobby with the script in my hand, gonna go and sit in Soho Park and kind of learn it and come back and see them in 2 hours. And just as I'm going out the door, the receptionist goes, Mr. Hope, come back. We've been sent, give me those. I want you to look at this instead, Gorman. So I go by and I learned, look at the script for like a couple hours, come back at 3 o'clock, so I came back and I just remember Gail and Jim bickering. I mean, Jim going, I'm shooting this audition. Do you want to shoot it? You're going to tell me how to do this? Back and forth. So I didn't know who these guys were, and I hadn't seen Terminator there, but they were, personal. And I think actually what got me the job, because I auditioned and said, and they said, so what are you doing now? I said, well, I'm about to go and make a movie with Stanley Kubrick. Jim fell off his chair. He told me that as a physics student, before he went to Roger Corman, he saw 2001: Space Odyssey, and that moment changed his life. He thought, right, I'm making movies, to hell with physics. And so I think Kubrick was a huge hero, and inspiration to Jim. So 2 days later, the casting director rings up Mary Selway, lovely lady, bless her, not with us any longer, rang and said, you are not going to believe this. Jim wants to offer a leading role to William, which is like 2 days after I met them. And I was a little blasé. I hadn't seen the script yet. The script arrived, and I read it, and I just could not believe it. I mean, talk about it. I finished the script on the John at 4 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't put it down. I thought, I gotta go to the John. I thought, no, I can't stop reading this. And I finished it, the back sitting on the John. I couldn't move. The script was unput down. But, so there we go.
Thank you all. We are, of course, very tight on time. When you look at this panel that's been assembled here to get all of these folks in one room at one moment was quite a feat, so we are tight on time. We're going to go out here for questions, for a couple questions from the audience, but Dave, I thought you had someone that you wanted to say something.
I do. I have a surprise for somebody at this table. There's a movie out in theaters, maybe some of you have already seen it. It's going to be #1 at the box office this weekend, called Finding Dory. There's somebody at this table that's actually in the movie, Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, well, it gets better. It gets better. So I talked to a couple of your friends, a couple of our friends last week in Los Angeles, and they recorded something. They wanted to say something to you about the movie Finding Dory. So Sigourney, this is my little present to you. Take a look at the screens, guys.
I'm actually going to be with Sigourney Weaver next week.
You are?
Yes, I'm hosting a panel in Houston.
I hope she's seen it by then.
And
she might not have seen it.
I know. Okay.
Will you give her a big hug?
Do you want to say anything to Sigourney?
Sigourney! We miss you. And your part in this film. People love you. Love, like love. Every time your name is mentioned, you get a huge round of applause and laughter. So, I mean, hopefully you see it.
Just be nice to Dave Morales from Houston, Texas.
We love Dave Morales from Houston, Texas.
Oh my God, the audience, every time you hear her name, the audience laughed. I love that. I mean, I think it's the most hilarious thing that they put that in.
Does she even know that she's...
Well, obviously she knows, because she said, I'm Sigourney Weaver, but I don't think she knows how great and what a big hit she is. I wish she would have been at the premiere, because she's a hit.
You should tell her. You tell her. I'm going to show her this video. I'm going to be with her. You want to tell her?
Well, yes, Sigourney, obviously you're going to go see the show, the movie, but when you see the movie, just know that you are a big star in this film.
From the audience, where do we begin? Gentleman right here, do you have a question?
I love you,
Little
Sigourney. I love you, Sigourney.
I love you, Sigourney.
Sweetheart?
Is that the full question? I mean, doesn't need much of a response. I think we get the message.
The question is for Sigourney. What was your favorite scene to film in Aliens?
Favorite scene in Aliens?
Oh, that's so hard to choose. That's like choosing one of your children.
Which is your favorite child?
You know, one of the most amazing scenes, and I must say I loved working, all of our scenes as an ensemble were so exciting, but the scene I remember the most, maybe, anyway, was going in with Carrie to the Queen's Chamber, because, you know, you read the script, you don't know what the Queen's Chamber is, you don't know what the Queen is, so going into this majestic, huge space filled with these eggs, and then seeing this creature come out for the first time, and eggs jump out. I mean, sometimes when you're an actor, you're like, is this really happening? You know, because they kind of just shoot, you know, and there's no rehearsal with these big effects sometimes. So I just remember it was like really being in the Queen's Chamber with Newt and having to shoot, you know, shoot aliens with bullets, and then torch dummies with fire, and then whatever that thing was, explode the whole set. So it was really a great day.
What people might not remember is when those films were being made, we weren't in this wild CGI world. So much of it was concrete. You touched and you interacted with these things. Not like today where it's all green screen.
Oh, I know. I think we all feel so lucky that what we were playing opposite, even if a creature, that it was real, and that there was actually an entity inside of it. And I think it's so much more difficult. Not with performance capture, but with green screens and all that stuff that's added later. I think that's really hard for an actor to pretend that the scene is happening. Wouldn't you agree?
Sigourney read for the part of Hudson. So glad that David read it
Next question, Dave. What do you have over there? We got a question from my side over here. Go ahead, step up to the mic there. How are you?
Hello, everybody. What I think is unique about Aliens is each character that dies in the movie has a death scene that almost matches their character in a way. And I'd like to know from each of you, I mean, my favorite death scene is, of course, Vasquez sitting there in that. Each of you is what your favorite death scene in the film was.
Aside from our own.
I was thinking, I had one.
They told me that one death scene.
I had a different take on the death scenes. I actually hated them because it meant each time there was one, someone else left. And Sigourney and I used to kind of joke and say that we were like the orphans that nobody wanted because everyone was leaving and we were like still there. So it was kind of sad. For me, it was sad just because they were all leaving.
You happy? You made her upset.
Quickly over here, we got time for maybe 2 more questions. I'm sorry about that. Over here.
Quick question. Actually, let me just quickly say, I came all the way from Ojai, California to see you guys. Seeing you guys all together, I feel like a hardcore Christian getting to see like Jesus and the 12 disciples. My question is, there's 2 versions of the film. There's the original 1986 release version, which cut a lot, and then Jim Cameron got to like re-release his original version in '91. To those of you who have seen both, which is your favorite?
Do you prefer the original or the director's cut? Let's do a hand up if you know. Original, 86.
Well, I have more lines in the second one.
So you like
My brother was in the second one, so I...
So you got to see your brother. So first,
The dance number slowed it down. I was watching to cut that in the original.
and why they were cut. Over to that side.
These are awesome, by the way. I just want to say I love you guys. And my question is, what's going on with Alien 5?
movie because understandably they didn't want both movies coming out at the same time. So I think now Neil is directing Gone World, and I have a little thing called Avatar to do. But then we're going to do it. Michael is not dead. He's going to be in it with me. I'm so excited about it. I'm really so excited about it because, you know, Neil he grew up watching these movies and broke the tapes. He watched them so many times growing up. And so to me, even though all of the writers have been brilliant, he's the first real fan of the movie that got to write a script and direct it. And I think it's really going to be really satisfying to fans.
We gave you an extra 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the cast of Alien.